So welcome, I am Mary Poplin. I am Imagineer Systems Product Specialist. We're going to be going over some pretty difficult tracks. Martin Brennand, our product manager, is going to be answering questions and hopefully bantering back and forth with me. We're going to go over a little bit of rotoscoping characters. We're going to do corner pins on screens with tracking data. We're going to talk about the 3D solver for NUKE and After Effects. And we're going to talk about background replacements with green screens, how to remove markers from a shot, and we're going to do a final comp in After Effects and Nuke. So the software we're covering is Mocha Pro, but some of the techniques are going to be available in Mocha for After Effects. We're going to talk about After Effects, Mocha Import Plus, and Nuke. So after that, we'll just be doing a Q&A. And let me go ahead and minimize this, and let's get started. So first thing I want to do is I want to show you what we're doing today. So we're going to be going over this shot. Now this shot is it's a screen insert. This is actually pretty hard to track because of all the reflections. We'll talk about that inside of Mocha, but this is the final of what we're going to be doing. Let me just go ahead and fit this to the screen just so you can see. So that is what we'll be doing. What we're going to do is we're going to open Mocha and let's talk about how Mocha works. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start a new project. So the way that works is we're going to come in here and we're going to select our footage. In this case, it's going to be this girl's wide pan shot. We're going to make sure that we go over our settings here. Now, what our settings do is they tell us a little bit about the final comp that we're going to do. So we need to make sure when we start a file that our frame rate is exactly the same as the comp will be. We're also going to check our pixel aspect ratio and make sure that is correct. And we're also going to, if you're using interlaced, you can use separate fields. We actually don't recommend that you use interlaced footage, because if you use interlaced footage, what can actually happen is you can end up having a problem with removes and stuff like that later. So I actually recommend that you de-interlace your footage and then re-interlace it when you're done out of Mocha. We're not doing a stereo project, so you don't really need to worry about views, but if this was a multi-view project, you would need to go ahead and hit that. And then advanced is basically whether or not you want to cache and what your color space what color space you'd like to use, and if you're going to convert your clip at all. Other things that you need to know about starting the file is the fixed frame rate, start frame, and time code. So we can either do a fixed frame as our offset, as our starting point. We can either do the normal start frame, or we can do the time code. I'm going to do a start frame, and we're going to hit OK. So with this shot is slightly challenging, and here's the challenging part about this shot. This shot has tons of reflections, so what we actually have to do is we have to track sort of creatively here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If we come in here and we try to track this screen in the way that you would normally want to track it, because a lot of times people are like, oh, well, the top of a table is a plane, so this is a plane, right? So if we try to track this, let me turn my surface and grid tool on. If we try to track this, what you'll notice is we're going to be tracking a bunch of other multiplanar data. So this is not going to stick on as nicely as I would like for it to. You can see we're going to start losing it here. And we've really started to lose the track here. Alright, so how do we actually do this the correct way? Well, what you want to do is you want to come in here and you want to actually track the parts of the shot that are useful to you. So we're going to track the side of this edge here. Okay, and we're going to come in here and we're going to use the Add to X-Spline tool, and we're going to anchor this with our tape that's on our surface of our table, because those are not reflections. So we're going to make sure that we've got this exactly where we want it. Let's just come in here, make this like a sliver. Alright, and this is what we're going to use to drive our track. So now I'm going to turn my surface tool on. I'm going to align my surface tool to the bottom here, just like this. And now from here, I'm going to turn my grid on. We're going to track translation, scale, rotation, shear, and perspective. and we're going to hit track backwards. Just like that. And you see we end up with a much, much nicer track because we're avoiding these hands over here, we're avoiding this reflection, and we're avoiding these reflections that would normally turn our track into something that would be reflective of those moving pixels. Because what we're actually tracking is a pattern of pixels that moves, which is just a fancy way of saying we're tracking a texture that moves in one direction. So this is fairly nailed down, but I actually want to nail it down even further because I can see we're slipping just a little bit. So, like, we're drifting over time, right? So I want to make sure that we don't drift. I want to grab as much as possible. So I'm going to actually come in here and I'm going to grab this other tape marker and we're going to keep tracking backwards. Now you can add splines or take away splines at any time during the track. And look at how nice that was. That actually really helped us anchor that track, okay? We can change these settings at any time, we can change these settings at any time, we can change these settings at any time, and we can change these settings at any time. So if you need to find something that's rotating more, then you can increase your angle. If you need to find something that's zooming for, you can increase your zoom. If you need to find, if you need to only track translation for a minute, you can totally do that. So don't feel like you're nailed down to the same exact thing over time. Because of the way Mocha tracks from frame 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, okay? Because we're constantly reevaluating the track, it means that we can get a super accurate track. Now, the downside to that is it also means that we are prey to a little bit of drift. Okay, so we have to fix that drift. Now, the way we fix that drift is actually in Adjust Track. So let's show you how that works. Adjust Track uses reference points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this edge here, this corner, because I can find that again. I'm going to find this corner here. What we're going to do is we're going to make like a 4-corner pin correction over the top of our track. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to find a couple of more areas to track. And that's going to be right here. So we're going to Alright, so we're going to continue this by finding the next reference points. In this case, I'm going to grab probably this corner here, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab this corner here, and we're going to use these as all 4 reference points. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit Set Master All, and what this is going to do is this is going to make these my reference points. So now what we do is we look for where it's starting to go off. So let's look for the main arc of where it's going off. So let's correct it here, and let's just hit Auto here, and here, and now that's animated between our adjustments. We're going to just auto adjust this here, here, let's just get this a little more close into place. It's going to be right here. Okay. We're going to nudge that into place. And again, we're going to take here, I'm going to make sure that's in place. We're going to nudge this right back into place where we're here. Looks like we're going to have to do that.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So we're going to adjust that there, and we're going to adjust this here. All right. So very quickly, we've gotten an adjust track over our entire solve here. And let's just correct this because this is not quite right. So here. We're going to adjust this right there, and we're going to adjust this right here, and we can nudge it into place if we need to. And here we're going to adjust this so that we have found the right place. So we're going to just nudge this until it gets right into that little groove there. And same thing for here. We're just going to make sure that we're exactly where we need to be. So there, we end up with some very nice tracks just using an overall corner pin correction over the top of our track. All right, now we've covered that, so let's talk about how we cover the back wall. I'm going to go ahead and open up my shot here that I actually have finished, so let's just go ahead and open that so I can continue to talk about the more advanced tracking techniques of this, and we'll do that from scratch as well. So let's turn off the hands, and let's turn off the back wall markers, and let's start talking about how we do these sorts of tracks together. Well, the cool thing about Mocha is Mocha doesn't really care about extraneous data, like data that it doesn't need. So what you can do when you're tracking stuff like this back wall, even though this back wall is really reflective, let's just go ahead and turn my Surface and Grid tool off for a second. We'll turn that visibility off. If I want to track this back wall too, which I do need to track, what we're going to do is we're just going to draw a shape right around the outside edges. We're skipping the middle because the middle is full of reflections that we don't need. And what Mocha is going to do is Mocha is going to look at all these edges, and it's going to look for the data that is the most consistent, because Mocha is a planar tracker, so what it's tracking is pixels that are moving relative to one another. So what we mean by that is pixels that are moving in one direction. So obviously fractal noise and boiling wouldn't work, but because this is a plane and because it's moving in one direction, it's very easy to track. So we're going to track translation, scale, rotation, shear, and perspective. We're not going to adjust our minimum percent of pixels used, even though that's our accuracy. We're going to take our grid and surface tool, and we're going to align it to this edge, and then we're going to sort of track backwards and forwards from here. So I'm going to start tracking backwards. And Mocha's going to hang right onto that background. And because we are not contaminating our track with a lot of these girls and their motion, we're going to get a fairly rock-solid track, because Mocha ignores data that isn't relevant to the track. So all of this hand motion over here, Mocha's not going to pay attention to, which is kind of the power of Mocha. It's a fairly intelligent tracker. Now, and that's again because it's actually looking. So point trackers and feature trackers work in a very specific way. You know, they try to follow an X or an area of pixels through the entire shot. What Mocha does is it looks from frame 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and it judges that distance over time. So let's go ahead and turn our mats off, and let's see what this track looks like. So I feel pretty happy with that track, all right? So that's one track that we need to do. There's a couple other things that we have to do, but let's first talk about how we get this into our shot. So we have our table track here, and we have our back wall track here that we've just made. Okay. Now let's take these and let's put them into After Effects. So over in After Effects, we're going to do this in After Effects, and then we're going to show you how this all works in Nuke later on. So again, this is what the final file is going to look like. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to align these corner pins to this table. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and make a new comp. I'm just going to do new composition. Actually, let's just do this. Let's duplicate our Glory pre-comp. And let's rename this to like new webinar. Okay, so we're going to open up new webinar, and we're just going to take all of our old footage here, and we're going to just delete it, and we're going to make a new shot. And let's talk about what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to put something on this table. Now I wanted to use this map on the table, so we're going to just take this map, and we are going to go ahead and go to this is important because of corner pins in After Effects. We're going to go to Layer, we're going to go to Transform, we're going to go to Fit to Comp. So we're going to make this fit to the composition. The reason we do that is so that we can then go to Layer, Pre-Compose. We're going to move all our attributes into the new composition. Okay, and then we're going to hit OK. From there, what we do is we go back over to Mocha, and inside of Mocha, we select our table track with our corner pin. Now, the surface tool is the representation of our corner pin, okay? So this surface tool, wherever I put the surface tool is where my surface is going to end up. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Export Tracking Data, and we're going to export After Effects corner pin, right? We're going to copy that to the clipboard, and we're going to go right back over to After Effects, make sure that we're on the first frame. We're going to go to Edit, Paste. And now we end up with this map right here on the table. Okay, so from here what we can do is, I don't actually, obviously this is not a final of how that needs to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to color correct this. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Color Correction. And in Color Correction, we're going to just do, let's do Color Balance. Actually, I hit the wrong thing. Go to Effect, Color Correction, and we're going to do Color Balance. And then in the shadows, we're going to up the blue a lot. And in the highlights, we're going to up the blue a lot. And we're going to start to change the color of this so that we can blend this over the top. Now from here, I'm going to take my blending mode and I'm going to turn this into like a soft light blend over the top. And I'm also going to come in here and I'm going to go to Layer and I'm going to go to, Effect, Color Correction. I'm going to just do some brightness contrast. I'm going to up the contrast. I'm going to make it less bright. So now we've got this nice overlay, right, that's dark, that's going to move with our shot. So if I hit play, this moves 100% correctly with our shot. Now I'm going to do the same thing for this back wall. So for the back wall, I'm going to come in here and we're going to go to our back wall picture that we're using, which is not the star field, but it is this back map. Okay, so from here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to Layer. We're going to go to Transform, and we're going to go to Fit to Comp. Okay, going to do the same thing where we go to Layer, Pre-Compose, and again we move all attributes into the new composition. I can't stress that enough. Hit OK, because otherwise it defeats the purpose of pre-comping it. We're going to go back over to Mocha, we're going to select our back wall, and we're going to go to Export Tracking Data. We're going to do an After Effects corner pin, copy that right to the clipboard. We're going to go right back over to After Effects and go to Edit, Paste. And again, we end up with the same sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take my color balance and my brightness contrast. I'm going to copy them. I'm going to paste them right over the top of this. I'm going to blend a nice soft light over that. I think I'm actually going to adjust my brightness because I want it to match this more or less. And we're going to go ahead from there and adjust some of this green and make these look like they belong in the same world. Okay. So from here, what we might want to do is we might want to adjust both of these as opacity. So we're going to go to Transform. I'm going to take this down to about 40%. Take this down to about 40% because I don't want it so crisp that it distracts from the rest of the things that I'm trying to do on this map. I also want it to feel like it fits in the color space. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we solve this for 3D. Okay, so let's very quickly go back over to our Mocha file, and we'll talk about how fast this is. So inside of Mocha, what we've done is we've tracked this back wall, and we've tracked this table. Now, inside of Mocha, what we need is we must have two non-coplanar planes in order to get a 3D solve. And Martin, are you still there?
Yes, I've just been typing away, answering a lot of questions, but yes.
Okay, wonderful. So we're doing a 3D solve here. So the way the 3D solves work is we need two non-coplanar planes in order to get a solve. And because we've already tracked this information, what we're going to do is we are going to use our corner pins in order to generate a 3D solve. So let's just go ahead and delete these. I'm going to just
And keep in mind too that this is probably the only section that is not relevant to the Adobe Mocha Ray users for the After Effects section.
Yes.
Most of the stuff that we're showing today can all be done in the After Effects bundled version, but in Mocha Plus and Mocha Pro you do get that camera solver as well to do this kind of work.
Exactly. So, so from here what we're going to do is we've duplicated these back 2 layers. And the reason I've done that is because what we're actually doing is we are comparing our surface tools. So when our surface tools are this far away from our track, it actually messes with the algorithm that we're using to solve. So I'm going to make this surface tool much smaller. And what you'll notice is that we'll get a much more accurate solve from a smaller surface tool because we're actually comparing the surface tool as if it were our feature set. Because you know the way normal camera solvers work, I mean, normal camera trackers work by basically looking at the whole shot and giving you, you know, hundreds of points and features to try to compare to one another. And that usually takes time, and you have to tell it what's good data and bad data. Stuff like this, reflections usually really throw it off. So in Mocha, because we have that planar track already, we can actually compare these two tracks and be done with it. So I'm going to select both of these tracks right here. I'm going to go to my camera solve, and inside of my camera solver, this is really easy. We've made this so even if you're not a match mover, you can use this. So pan, tilt, zoom, you have to decide what kind of camera this is. Pan, tilt, zoom is going to be a camera that is on a tripod that's either panning, tilting, or zooming. Okay. Small parallax change is going to be a camera that's moving in Z space. It doesn't matter if it's on a gimbal or a crane or anything. As long as it's a moving camera in any capacity, you need to use either small parallax or large parallax. Small parallax is going to be your landscapes where your camera is far away from the objects you're filming, okay? And large parallax is going to be where your camera is closer, so it's going to be medium to close-up shots. In this case, this is definitely a large parallax solve, so we select those 2 layers, we hit large parallax solve, and we go ahead and we decide what focal length this is. I'm guessing that's between 35 and 70. If I don't know, I hit all 3 of these, and if it's zooming, I hit zoom. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit solve.
So yeah, I mean, you can get Mocha to guess this kind of stuff with the auto thing. It is a little bit slower because Mocha will try and run the gauntlet of all the different types to try and work out the best solve for you.
Right.
So if you've got one of those sort of handheld cameras where it's actually a little bit harder to tell whether or not you've got a pan, tilt, zoom or a small parallax shot, Mocha does a pretty good job of working out the type for you. Amir, have you talked about the surface sizes and all that kind of fun stuff?
I did talk about the surface sizes, yes.
Yeah.
Now, eventually, you know, with our camera solver, the surface size isn't going to matter, but right now it does. So as far as the type goes, it's pretty easy to pick what type of camera it is. Is it a close-up or medium shot? It's a large parallax. Is it a landscape shot? It's a small parallax. Is your camera like completely stationary and either panning, tilting, or zooming? It's pan, tilt, zoom. It's not really that confusing. So once you wrap your head around that very simple process, but of course you can use auto. From here, we're going to go ahead and export our data. So I'm going to select these 2 layers, and I'm going to actually move this surface tool a little bit. I'm going to move this to like here, and I'm going to make sure that I've selected these 2 layers. I'm going to export my camera data. We're going to use the After Effects 3D motion data. So this tool is available in Mocha Plus and Mocha Pro, so you don't have to go Pro just to get the camera data. But inside of Pro, you get the FBX that goes to Maya and like Autodesk and all that kind of stuff. Autodesk Smoke and Flame, and then for Nuke as well. In Mocha Pro, you get the FBX data for Nuke, and then in Mocha Plus and Mocha Pro, you get hit film composite shots. We're going to do After Effects, and we're going to copy it right to the clipboard. Let's just resolve that right quick because it said some nulls may have low accuracy. Okay, export camera data, copy to the clipboard, and let's go back over to After Effects. Inside of After Effects, we're going to make sure we're on the first frame as normal. We're going to select any layer, and we're going to go to Edit, Paste Mocha Camera. All right. And now I'm going to basically get rid of my back wall tracks because I don't want them for 3D data. I just want the center of the table. So this is just a sanity check where you make sure that you don't have a whole ton of data that you're not going to use inside of your shot. And so the way this works is we have our nice null that's anchored right in the center. And from here what we're going to do is we're going to start putting some 3D data right into this shot. So I'm going to go to my layer, and I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to make a new solid. Doesn't matter what color the solid is, but we're going to call this our element layer, okay? And we're going to call this the top element layer, and we're going to hit OK. And apparently I hit caps lock. Fun. So this is our element. So we're going to go to Effect, and we're going to go to Video Copilot. Now this is how you get 3D information into After Effects, like true 3D information, like models. You can do this with 3D text if you want, and that's fine. You can do it with 3D planes, and that's fine inside of After Effects. But in order to get 3D models in here, you need to use Element. So you're going to go to Video Copilot Element, and from here we're going to actually do a scene setup. So we open our scene setup, and I'm going to import a model. So in this case, we're going to import this Audi model. We're going to hit OK. And I can also come in here and I can start to apply some preset textures to it. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to apply, let's see, shiny light to this. Okay? And that's going to be my texture. Now inside of shiny light, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to basically put this down to 50% occlusion. So let's just go to 50%. And hit OK. And then from here what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just hit OK, and now that will put our object into the scene. Now we have to adjust our object and make it live in our scene where we want it to live. So I'm going to go into Element here, and I'm going to go into Group 1 and my particle replicator, and you can see I have position X, Y, and position Z. So inside of our transform for our null that we want to hook this up to, we're going to make sure we're on our first frame, and I'm going to go to Position, and I'm just going to copy that. We're going to come over here to Position XY, and now that's going to paste our XY position in there. And then Position Z, we're going to grab our Z position, and we're going to put that right here. All right, and now from here, what we can do is we can start to adjust our transform of our object. So in this case, let's see, particle replicator rotation. We're going to start to adjust the rotation of our car inside of this shot. So let's just, that looks pretty good. And then let's do a particle offset. Let's just go to just like, all right, and so now it's going to move along with our track very nicely inside of After Effects. Now, I'm going to take this down in opacity just a little bit, so we're going to go to our transform layer, and I'm going to take this down to like, let's take it down to like 60%. So now we have this sort of hologram of this car. Now the other cool thing we can do is we need to make sure that we have a reflection for this car. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to call this, I'm going to rename this to element layer bottom. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in here to our rotation, and we are going to rotate this completely under the car and move it underneath our car. And we're going to just make sure that we've got the rotation 100% the way we want it. Just like that.
I just kept realizing my typing was getting in the way of the audio.
Oh yeah, the typing's sort of pretty loud.
I will mute again.
No worries. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much how you do a 3D object with a 3D reflection on a plane that you've tracked inside of Mocha, and you get true 3D tracking. Now, if you want to add any sort of motion graphics to this, you can. If you want to add any sort of interface, you can. Like for here, what we did is we did this. Let's see, go to my... We added a sort of heads-up display kind of thing to this table here. So again, we did the same sort of pre-comp. So I'm going to go to Layer, New, Solid, and I'm going to just make a black solid. I'm going to put this under our little display here. I'm going to just go ahead and rotate this display a little bit. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to go to Layer, Pre-Compose, and we're going to call this HUD, Heads Up Display. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to Mocha. And outside of Mocha, I'm going to take that same table track. We're going to go back to our track. We're going to go Export Tracking Data, After Effects Corner Pin, and go back to After Effects. And then do the same thing. We're just going to take this and go to Edit, and we're going to go to Paste. And our heads-up display will be on the table, and we can move it however we want depending on what it's doing inside of the pre-comp. So in this case, if I move it over here, I can go back to my webinar and see where I've moved it. So in this case, excuse me, in this case, what we actually want to do is we want to move it something like, let's see, rotation, something like that. So now our heads-up display is underneath and animating under our car. So we're going to go ahead and change this to like a screen. And so now we get this nice animation underneath our car. Looks like, makes it look like something's going on in there. Okay? Now, something else we need to do is we need to go ahead and we need to replace this background. So that becomes kind of a pain, but we can actually use our Mocha tracking data to replace this background as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a green screen on this back area. So we're going to go ahead and click on our Glory Last Man Standing Girl wide pan shot, and that's our background plate.
Stanislaw was actually asking about the 3D camera in relation to the Cineware plugin. Yeah, you can pretty much use any of the camera stuff from any of the plugins that go straight into After Effects. So if you want to do, say, like the Boris 3D plugin, if you want to do something from Cinema 4D and use the camera porter over to Cinema 4D, that will all work correctly. Alternatively, if you're working with Mocha Pro, you can actually bring the FBX data straight into Cinema 4D and use the cameras and nulls right inside Cinema 4D and then port that to AE as well. So there's different ways you can work. You don't need to necessarily just paste the camera data straight into After Effects. You can go via Cinema 4D, Maya, whatever you need to do, and then port that back over to AE, depending on which way you want to export that back out.
Right. I think I probably misspoke earlier when I was saying this is like one of the only ways to get 3D data into After Effects. It's not one of the only ways, but it is certainly one of the easiest ways. But Cinema 4D and After Effects are round trip now, so you should be able to use the same data. Now let's go over to our original plate, and let's actually pull a key. So I'm going to go to Effect, and I'm going to go to, I mean, you could roto this if you wanted to, but I'm very lazy. So I'm going to go to Keying, and I'm going to go to Key Light, and I'm going to select this back area, and we're going to basically adjust our, we're going to adjust our shot.
Mary, a few people are asking about the back wall reflection in the tabletop.
Yep.
Talking about that little the black reflection in the back there.
Yep.
Can you just talk a little bit how you'd go about tracking that?
Track this back reflection?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the green, and I'm going to put the motion behind it. And I'm going to get away with it without having to track it backwards. However,
they mean the back screen.
oh, this area.
Yeah.
Oh, this back screen. We already tracked this back screen. Do you mean this?
And then the reflection at the bottom of the back screen.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If I were going to do that, all I would do is if I wanted to continue that reflection from the heads-up display, I actually wouldn't even track the back screen. I would use my table track, and let's turn this back on, and I would actually just extend my corner pin. I mean, because that'll still move in a similar way, and I can get my very nice adjustments if I want to.
And then you can just flip that with the same data. And you could do the same for the reflection for the vertical back wall as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. So if I want to do that for the back wall, again, I could do the same thing. I could just hook this up to the back wall, and even if it's a slightly different angle because of the camera, I can come in here, adjust this to here, and now that moves with my back track. And if I needed to, I would just use an adjust track and like duplicate the layer, or I would probably just use an adjust track to fix it actually, because it's moving similarly enough that just an adjust track would fix it, and you'd still get the motion. Or what I could do if I were feeling extremely froggy, I would come in here, which is a very technical term, froggy. I could come in here and I could try to grab this edge, grab this, and then we could just go ahead and track that. And that would work too. I mean, there's a million ways you can do it. But what you have to do is you have to make sure that you're only tracking the parts that you need. And I want to make sure that this doesn't screw my track up. And it doesn't. So there you go. So there's Mocha paying attention to things that, like, you know, are there most of the time. So we start to lose it there a little bit, so I would probably change what I'm tracking. This wall over here is actually screwing my track up, so I would actually just come in here, I would delete those points, and I would just switch to like translation only and track that the rest of the way off screen. So you can change these settings at any time, like any time, and you can change your shape at any time and it won't destroy the track. So you see how that's tracking even though I deleted those points. And I would still probably use adjust track to try to like line up this point, this point, this point, and this point, and make sure that they were constant throughout the shot. Does that make sense?
I think that was a good explanation. If anyone's got any further questions around the actual reflection stuff, let us know, and I'll try and answer it in the chat area.
Okay. Yes, no problem. I'm actually not tracking those because I don't really know that they're I don't know that it's worth it for me to track those. So because I don't feel like I'm getting enough of a bang for my buck to actually put those in there. Now, if you really want to do that, you totally can, but I don't feel like it's helping me enough to do that. Let me just go ahead and adjust this until I get something that looks good. Okay. And then why are you changing color? Green screening is an art that I am not the best at. Okay, so let's go ahead and just use that as a sort of base. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put a star field back here. So we're just going to grab the star field, throw it back here. This is way too bright, so I'm going to go ahead and knock it down. So I'm going to go to Effect, and I'm going to go to Color Correction, and I'm going to just go to, let's see, maybe Brightness and Contrast, just because it's easiest and fastest. I'm going to just take the brightness down, take the contrast down a little bit. So what we end up with is like a sort of duller star field. I'm going to arrange this until I feel like I like what it's doing, and I'm probably going to shrink it as well. So we can go to Transform and we can do a scale. We can sort of knock that down some, but I want to make sure that I still have it over my reflection. So if I pull I hide all these, you can see that I still have a reflection down here. Now what we're going to do is, I just want to show you right quick, if we leave that with no tracking data, that's kind of interesting, but it looks like we're not moving at all, and I sort of feel like this is a spaceship, so I kind of want to have this move with us. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make that move with the background. So we're going to go to Layer, New, and Layer, New, and I'm going to go to a null object, and we're going to call this like BG driver, only spelled right. And I'm going to make sure that I'm on my first frame. We're going to go over here to Mocha again. I'm going to export my tracking data for the back wall. So I'm going to go to Export Tracking Data. Actually, I changed that, didn't I? Yeah, let me put that back where it's supposed to go. Because I was doing an earlier demonstration, I moved my surface tool, and I actually want my surface tool here. So now I'm going to go to Export Tracking Data, and instead of doing a corner pin, I'm going to do After Effects Transform Data. I'm going to copy this right to my clipboard. I'm going to go over to After Effects. I'm going to go to my BG driver, make sure I'm on my first frame, and I'm going to go to Edit, Paste. Okay, and now I have this null that's moving along with my background. So we're going to actually use that to drive my star field. So I'm going to connect this to my BG driver. And now my star field moves. Now I actually don't like that my star field is rotating. So I'm going to go to my BG driver, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my first frame, and I'm going to turn my rotation off. And now I'm going to get this nice sort of star drift in the background, kind of for free. You know, I don't have to do any new tracks. So what I want to point out about all of this work that I've done on here is all of this has been done with the same like 2 tracks. Okay, so I used the table track and back wall track, and I've gotten a corner pin for the table, I've gotten a back wall, I've gotten the 3D solve for my car, and I've gotten a background replacement put in just by tracking this back wall and this tabletop. Okay, now in order to finish this, we need to do some Roto, so let's talk a little bit about that. Let's go over here to our Mocha file, and inside of our Mocha file I'm going to show you that I've done some Roto, but I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm not going to make you sit through me doing all of the Roto, but we will show you sort of what's going on here. Now what you can see is that I have split the hands into various pieces of Roto. Like this hand I don't need to do much Roto for, so it's one shape. This hand obviously I don't need to do much Roto for, it's all one shape. This hand, again, not much Roto, all one shape. This hand has the thumb and forefinger coming out of the hand, and it's just easier to Roto these fingers and the hand as a whole, and then track the arm where I need it, which is only here. I don't really need the arm anywhere but there and here. So you can see that I'm not going crazy. I'm not over Rotoing. If you're a perfectionist, you know, that kind of thing might bother you, but for me, it's not necessary for me to Roto every single bit of that hand. It's only necessary for me to Roto it where it goes over the top. So in this case, thumb, finger, these, and then the edges of our arm. So, and we use the tracking data to drive most of that. So if you look at our keyframes that we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 keyframes on that whole arm. And then the same thing for, you know, her thumb, it's less keyframes. So let's talk.
A couple of people are asking just quickly about the stretching on the table. So the way you would handle stretching in this thing, like if you want to sort of like get a nice set piece for your long table, some of it, it depends on which way you want to do it. So the way we've done it here is the classic fit to comp method. That's sort of like doing a stabilized comp where you've got the insert full to screen and then it stretches to match the table according to the surface. There is another way to do it. You can actually, let's just, Mary, can you just quickly show that track one more time?
Yes.
So if we just turn on that surface, we can see here how that's locked there. If you actually go to the beginning of a shot where you actually want to line up your shot, you can sort of set up your own thing inside something like After Effects or Nuke, and then use something called the Align Surface tool. So that's available over here on the bottom here where Mary's pointing. And what this will do is it will stretch your surface corners out to the full size of that comp. And that means what you can do then is actually paint exactly or corner pin exactly where you want it inside After Effects, pre-comp that, and then use the full surface
Yes.
for aligning it.
Right, exactly. On this shot, though, I would probably start my painting like right here, where it's the most parallel, because that way you'll know what you're doing the most, and then it will tilt properly. So if you were going to do that, I would align my surface right here, and then you see how it changes over time. What you do is that will apply to your corner pen or your paint or whatever you've done to align it to that section. Does that make sense? All right.
That's pretty good, especially if anyone's got any other answers they can ask.
All right. So let me go back to what I was doing. What was I doing? Roto. Okay. So Roto. So Roto for this hand. So what you can do to Roto this hand, you can Roto hands in a couple of different ways. Let me turn my grid and surface tool off. If I want to Roto this girl's hand back here, it's going to be just a simple matter of, let me hide this. It's going to be a simple matter of coming over here, finding a good section where I can see her hands really well. In this case, actually, it's going to be the beginning of the shot because I can see her hand better in the beginning of the shot. I'm going to come in here and draw my X-spline shape right around her hands. We're going to soften this, which is to say we're going to relax the corners using the X-splines by releasing the pulley a little bit. That's going to give us a nice round shape. And from here I'm going to do translation, scale, rotation, shear, and I can even do perspective, but I actually prefer to just use shear on Roto. I'm going to track that forward. And you can see that Mocha's doing a pretty good job hanging on, but it's not perfect. So what we have to do is we zoom in here, and we're going to adjust it where it needs adjusting. So in this case, we're going to just adjust here. I'm going to pull these back. This is the nice part about the transform tool. It allows you to very quickly move your points around without having to do any large amount of work. So we're going to take all of that, okay, and now that's going to animate between these two places, okay. Let's just make sure that that is tight and nice. So from here what we can do is we can use this tool called the Auto Pan tool or the Stabilize tool. And it's not stabilizing at all. What it does is it stabilizes around the shape so you can see where your shape is the most off. So from here I'm going to look for where the shape starts to get the most off. In this case, right here. All right. So just like, let's see, we're going to shrink this down, just like that. Okay. Because her hand is rotating, we've got to account for that rotation. All right, and now we're going to look for where it's the most off here. So in this case, we're going to pull this out. And what I can see... Just because
Mary's in the zone, I'll just let you know, Mary, that we're about an hour in now.
Yeah, I'm very quickly going to have to finish the shot and poke over to Nuke.
Sure.
So, and we'll just basically show the same sorts of things inside of Nuke, and then we'll do 15 minutes for Q and A. So, what we're going to do here is I'm using the Add Points to Spline tool, and I'm actually just going to add some points back into my spline. So now, watch, they'll animate between what I had done. So that's kind of a cool trick. So from here we're just going to adjust where we need to adjust. Just like this. And you can see that we end up with something that looks fairly nice and is fairly quick. Now I'm not going to do a crazy amount of like nice roto for this because you're really not going to be able to tell. But I am going to make sure that I have everything looking like more or less passable for me. So, let's just go ahead and fix that. All right, and let's turn our pan back off, and let's see how we like that hand roto. So now what we end up with is we end up with this nice mat right around her hand that we can use as a holdout mat. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to take all of my hands that I've rotoed just like this. And we're going to go to our Track tab. I'm going to select one of my layers. We're going to go to Export Shape Data. Now, in Mocha Pro, we can export shape data to just about everything. New in version 4, we can export to Premiere. We can also, we've always been able to export to Combustion Gmasks, Flame Gmasks, Roto nodes, and Roto Paint nodes. Shake Roto Shapes, Mocha Shape Data for After Effects, and Mocha Shape Data for Final Cut. We're going to use Mocha Shape Data for After Effects. So we're going to copy this to our clipboard, and we're going to go right over to After Effects. Now, inside of After Effects, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just duplicate my background here, and I'm going to go to Edit and Paste, and that will, excuse me, I didn't go to All Visible Layers. Going to go to Export Shape Data, All Visible Layers, copy the clipboard, back over to After Effects, and we're going to go to Edit, and we're going to go to either Paste and Paste Effects onto our hands here, where you can see they're now over the top of everything with effects. Or what we can do is we can go to, let me just delete all those, or we can go to Edit, and we can go to Paste Mocha Mask, and what that will do is make masks on those sections. So from here we're just going to drag this right under the element layer, and now we've got the hands on top of our reflections, but still behind our car. Okay, so that's sort of how we do that. It's very quick and dirty Roto, but it ends up looking pretty nice. So now, from here what we're going to do, if we need to like soften this at all, we can come into our masks, we can select all of them. I can come in here to feather, and I can like feather the edges, you know, however much I like. And then from there, we are pretty good to go. So that's sort of how you get the shot set up inside of After Effects. If you want to see my final shot after all color corrections and stuff, that's going to be this shot right here. Pretty easy to get this all done without doing a whole lot of work. Let's go over. Do you have a question, Martin?
I was going to say, have you got some quick chance to talk about the marker cleanup? If you've been asked yet?
Yes, I forgot. Okay, marker cleanup. Right, so because this is a lot of reflections, I'm just going to hide this right quick. Because this is a lot of reflections, actually the way that I do marker cleanup is a quick and dirty way. So let's go into our footage, which is going to be this right here. All right, so marker cleanup for this kind of stuff can be kind of a pain because of the reflections, because everything is sliding everywhere. So what I do is I do a little bit of a blurry clean. So I basically take my layer, I go to Effect, I go to Generate, I go to Keying, and I go to, let's just do this. Let's go over here and go to Key. And we're going to go to, let me move this, a color key right here. I'm going to drag this onto this even though it's obsolete. And I'm going to select the area that I want to key. I'm going to hit like a tolerance of like 32. I'm going to duplicate this. And we're going to select another key. And from here what I do is I actually just try to fill this in using its own information. So I'm going to pull some of that. All right. And we need to bring this down to about 20, I think, because these are all pulling too much. Okay. And let's do this again one more time. All right. So from here what I do is I try to offset them. So I come in here and I duplicate this. And like when I say this is quick and dirty, I mean it's quick and dirty. So we nudge this over, and we do it again, duplicate it, nudge it over. I tend to do a complete pre-compose of these, so I go to like Layer, Pre-compose, and I call this like quick and dirty, clean. Okay, and from here I go to Effect, and I go to a blur, and I go to like a box blur, and let's do like a 15 box blur. And then from here I take a matte of my markers. Now you can do a matte of your markers pretty easily. You can hook it up to the track of your background. So like we've got this table track, so let's come in here and let's do this. Let's make a bunch of markers. I'm using the Add to Spline tool. Alright, and we're going to grab these as well, and this one as well. And I'm going to take these and I'm going to hook this, I'm going to call this back markers, and we're going to link this to the table track, and now that should move along with our table track. So we're going to soften these a little bit. Alright, and now I'm going to do the wall markers. So we're going to draw some shapes around here. Use the Add to Spline. Draw some shapes around there. Shapes here. Shapes here. And then we're going to grab these as well. Just takes a second. And then again. And again. And I'm going to hook these up to, we're going to call these wall markers. And I'm going to hook these up to the wall track. Okay. We're going to do any roto corrections if we need to, like on this table here. And there. All right, now we're going to take all of these and I'm going to go to my tracker and I'm going to go to export shape data. We're going to actually hide the hand. Export shape data, all visible layers, copy that to the clipboard. I'm going to go back over here to After Effects. I'm going to go to Layer, New, Solid. We're just going to make like a white solid. I'm going to make sure I'm on the first frame, go to Edit, paste Mocha Mask, and I have all these markers here. I'm going to come in here, select all of them, do like a soft feather. Okay. And then I'm going to use this as an alpha matte. And we're going to drag this over our comp. So now let's go ahead and turn off my white solid. Where did I put that? Okay. See what in my layers is causing that right quick. Oh, that's my matte. So let's go back to, right. Where's my matte? There we go. So what we end up with is these patches, and I would need to color correct this back down. So in this case, I have somewhere on here I have a color correction. So let's just take my pre-comp, and like if we were going to put those on there, I would want to take my values down in order to get them to fit back in with the shot. So that's what you end up with. You end up with this like pretty easy patch on top of everything. So quick and dirty clean. In this case, we're going to take our levels, paste that right onto our quick and dirty clean layer levels, and we're going to knock that down some. So, and that's what you end up with. It's pretty easy. But
so Yuri was just asking about the additional X-splines in a layer. So I just want to have a quick chat about that. And so Yuri said the way it works is that when you add an X-spline to a layer, it just adds into that single layer. You don't see it as a sub-layer in the layer thing. It just adds as the whole section of layer splines. And if you need to delete them, you just select one of them in the viewer and delete them. So you can add and remove as many as you like. And you can even, once you've done your track, you can go back and actually delete all of the splines except for one and just clean up your shot. You don't need to keep your spline data after it's been tracked. You just need to keep a single spline after it's done. So you can go back and forth between adding and removing splines as you work. But we don't actually list the additional sub-splines under each layer. The whole layer just can contain many splines in one.
Right, exactly. All right, so it's a very quick and dirty process to get rid of sort of moving reflection paint. You can paint it out in a true way if you want to. Like, you can take the tracking data for the table, and you can take the tracking data for the back wall, and you can hook paint strokes up to that. But I don't really feel like it's necessary for reflections. I feel like when we're doing this many layers over the top of the reflections, you don't have to worry about it. As far as how this works in Nuke, let's talk about that for a second. I'm not going to go ahead and I'm not going to redo this whole shot because I don't have time, but I will show you how this works. So let's take this and let's start talking about what that means. Let's come in here and go to like frame. Let's see what we've done here. So what we've done here in this shot is we have our original plate, and that's our original plate. And you can see I've just quick and dirty painted out the background. Let's hit cancel on this. And we've done a color correction on it. We've added our star field using a tracker. And this is a tracker node, so let's show you how this works. We're going to make sure we're on our first frame here. So from here, I'm going to delete this tracker node. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Mocha, and let's put that tracker node back in. So I'm going to go to my back wall track. Okay, in my back wall track, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Export Tracking Data, and new in version 4, we have this Nuke tracker node. Okay, so this is going to be the Nuke 7 tracker. We're going to copy that to the clipboard. I'm going to head right over here, and we're just going to paste that back in. It's literally that simple. And so now my background will be tracked right back in. So when I look at my shot, I have my tracker right back in my shot. Let's just play this forward. Anytime you want to play. There we go. So you can see that just copies and pastes my tracker right back in. As far as our corner pin's the same sort of thing. We work in Nuke much the same way that we work inside of Mocha. So I've got my read node here for my background. I've reformatted it, okay, and now I've got my corner pin on my table to make it fit, and a merge to make that fit over the top of everything. This corner pin is just the exact same thing. I'm going to delete this and show you. And we go back over to Mocha. I'm going to take my table track. We're going to go to Export Tracking Data. I'm going to take my Nuke corner pin, copy that to the clipboard, and literally back over to Nuke, take my reformat, hit paste, and now it's right back where it needs to be on top of my background. Same thing for our heads-up display, and same thing for our back wall as well. So just a literal copy and paste, and we end up with our data moving correctly inside of Nuke. Now, the 3D is a little bit more complex than that, but we'll talk about this. The last thing I want to do is I want to talk to you about merging our hands over the top of everything. So what we do is we take our original plate. We're going to delete our Roto. I'm going to come back over here to Mocha. Again, we have all of our hand Roto done, just like this. I'm going to go to Export My Shape Data, and I'm going to actually do Nuke Roto Paint. So we're going to take our Nuke Roto Paint, and I'm going to go to All Visible Layers, copy that to the clipboard. It's just this easy. I go back over to Nuke, select my read node, and I go to, just edit, paste, right? And I end up with my Roto. In my Roto, I need to select output alpha, pre-multiply RGBA, and I end up with my hands back over the top of my shot. Very nice and simply. So let's just make sure that we're playing that. We end up with our hands right back over the shot. So if this will come to frame 1, there we go. So it lines up pretty nicely. Now, the last thing that we need to worry about is putting our car into this. So let's just show you what that looks like. We've got our lovely car right here over the top. Now, this is pretty easy. You have to do a read geo for the Audi and the shader as well. So we've got this nice constant, and OBJ, like a read geo is pretty easy. You just go ahead and load in your model. And in this case, we've just loaded in our model for the top and the bottom. So this is our top model, and this is our shadow underneath. So we've got a constant shader on them. So this is a constant gray-blue, and this is a constant black. You can see the black shadow is underneath, and the blue is on the top. This is inside of our scene. Now, a lot of times setting up cameras inside of Nuke can be kind of a pain in the butt. That's where the whole Mocha Import Plus thing comes in. So if I have my original footage here, and I select it, and I go to Mocha Import Plus, and I go to Full Camera Rig, what's nice is I'll end up, let's go to my desktop here and grab it right quick. I have to go to my webinar, and we're going to go to this, and we're going to grab our camera, open, and Mocha Import Plus will actually make a whole rig right here for us very simply, and then we just merge that back over the top, go to our right node.
And we highly, highly recommend getting this set of tools. Like MemoWorld with Matthias Moll has made an amazing plugin to work with Nuke. It like takes our data and just makes everything awesome. So it adds tracking data to a lot of the nodes that you're used to in Nuke, but adds the ability to either copy straight from the clipboard or import from a file, just like the Mocha Plus Import Plus from After Effects does. But he's made it quite flexible inside Nuke, so developing full rigs, developing, adding to the Spline warp tool as well, and all these kind of things. So it's a really, really versatile tool. So check out memoworld.com to check that one out.
Absolutely. Now, we have about 15 minutes left for questions, so I want to make sure that we cover all the questions so we don't get, so we can go back and show something if somebody didn't quite get a concept, or if you've got a specific question about any of these techniques or anything about the After Effects file, I'm happy to answer any of those questions.
Sure, so I'm just going to read through anyone who wants to type in additional questions. I'm going to grab some straight from the bottom here. That's the sales question, Joey. Yes, we've still got the final 20% off sale going for upgrades just for the IBC special, so the Pro guys for 3.2 can definitely upgrade. Just go to the website and check out the 20% off promo there. Just looking down the list of what I haven't answered already.
No problem.
Is Mocha Import Plus only for Nuke? No, it is not. Mocha Import Plus is also available for After Effects.
It's true.
So Mary can pull that up there. But the Mocha Import Plus was originally developed for After Effects to just help really make the tool robust. It's got an excellent tool called the Stabilized Precomp, which helps just like lock off areas to do paint work on. It's a really, really cool tool. And they've got similar tools right in Nuke for that, but they've just expanded on those tools in Nuke because Nuke is a little bit more flexible in being able to apply our Mocha data.
I'm having
you've got those two tools.
I'm having I guess an aneurysm. Like, where is Mocha Import Plus? I just had it open.
Should be under the window tab, I believe.
Yeah, it should be.
But it's not.
But it's not, which means it's probably in my Creative Cloud and not in my Creative Cloud 14, but I can show that to you.
Yeah, sure. Let's follow that one up. So any other questions whilst Mary's looking at that? Could the markers have been placed better, or did they need them at all? In this particular shot with Mocha specifically, you could have got away with just those edges and then done a little bit of drifting, but those markers do help for some of that stuff. So like especially for when we're doing those adjust tracking. So that adjust track where we had to apply the reference points. It's really, really important to have those reference points when you don't have any sort of specific features to look at when you're adjusting a track. Otherwise, the drift is harder.
Well, yeah, and I got to tell you, I absolutely would have put those. I would have put those markers in there if I had to do this again, but what I would do instead of white X's when they're wearing white shirts on a white background, I would have made them like magenta or like blue, you know, because you've already got a green screen pull in the background as well. So there's, like, yes, they could have, they probably could have done with less of these X's, like they probably only needed like one here and one here, and probably only needed like one here and one here because this is enough data here to get everything. But I still would have made them a pullable color because having them be white is atrocious in this scene. So like just be thoughtful about the way that you set things up. As far as is After Effects going to play nice with me today or not? We were getting the window of death, so I'm going to just let that. I'm going to let that sit for a minute.
Your laptop's a little bit tired. So can you just, while you're waiting for that, can you maybe just describe to the guys the difference between Mocha Plus and Mocha Pro, and maybe go from Mocha AE to Mocha Plus to Mocha Pro?
Sure. So so Mocha for After Effects comes with the Clip tab, the Track tab, and the Adjust Track tab, and it only exports to After Effects, which means that you get your transform and your corner pins and your shape data for After Effects with the free version that comes with After Effects. Mocha Plus is an upgrade to that. It's a purchasable upgrade that you can get from us. It has a couple of bonuses. One of the bonuses is that it's on a more recent development cycle. As this, we have to send our files to Adobe like way early, so you'll get the latest and greatest technology if you upgrade to either Mocha Pro or Plus, which means bug fixes and codec readability and all that kind of stuff. Other than that, you get the Clip tab, the Lens tab, the Track tab, Adjust Track, and Camera Solve. So let's talk about the Lens and Camera Solve. The Lens tool is something that automatically will judge the lens curve of your shot based on any straight lines that are warped in your shot. So it'll look at a curved line and it'll say, what do I need to do to this curved line to make it straight? And it judges the lens tool off of that so that you never have to go back and forth between having to do a hand lens correction. Still has the Track and Adjust Track, and the Camera Solver, which we showed, is what we use to put that car on top of everything. The Track tab, though, inside of Mocha Import Plus actually exports to Final Cut and Hit Film as well, so it's not just After Effects. Mocha Pro has absolutely everything inside of this, so it's got the Camera Solver and the Lens tool, the Insert tool, which is something that you can use to put either grid warped corner pins onto something, or you can use normal corner pins and you can render them out with focus blur and motion blur based on the track. The Remove tool, which basically allows you to take objects out of a scene as long as the data that's moving behind them is planar. You could technically use the Remove tool on these markers, but it would be such a pain in the butt that it's not really worth it, because I would have to track this plane individually, I would have to track this back wall individually, track this wall over here individually, and track these reflections individually in order to get a remove to work properly over this background. So an offset honestly just works better for this shot. You know, if you match the grain and everything, you shouldn't be able to tell. Now, excuse me, or hand painting. The other thing that you want to do to note about Mocha Pro is the Stabilize tool, which actually instead of like this auto pan tool that we have that stabilizes around our track, this actually stabilizes your shot based on your planar tracking data. It's a good way to get some cool artistic effects as well. You can get like a pretty awesome Stanley Kubrick look if you track somebody's face as they're walking. Like if somebody holds their their iPhone out in front of them and walks through a city, you can track their face and you'll get a nice Kubrick effect going on around them. Or you can do things like refocus a shot. So like let's say we're filming this girl and this is handheld and it's bouncing everywhere. I can track her and focus on her and take most of the smoothing out, and it'll actually end up looking like handheld, but like we're focused on her instead of like bouncing around the shot and not looking correctly. Or you can just use it to simply lock down your shot. It just depends. So that's everything that's in Mocha Pro Plus and After
So
Effects.
Chris was actually asking about the adjust track and whether or not you can actually just nudge using keys, and the answer is we can. We've just in V4 introduced a much better keyboard shortcut customization tool.
Right here. So, you know, you can adjust your various modules.
So you can search for them through the filter. You can actually nudge left, right, up, down, whatever you need. You can also set them to a specific profile. We already support a NUKE profile and an After Effects profile, and we're going to be adding some more as time goes on. So if you're already working in After Effects or already working in NUKE or anything like that, you can switch to that profile, and the keys will pretty much match. It just depends on which one's using. Obviously, we don't use like R for the read node and stuff like that because we load specific things, but there are different ways. So like if you're used to using the arrow keys for nudging up and down a pixel,
You can do that.
That way, if you're used to the arrow keys nudging the timeline, it'll do that.
Yes, exactly. Anything else?
Lots and lots.
I'm sure.
How much time we got, Mary?
We have we have about 5 minutes. So
Okay, cool. So let's have a look down the list here.
Uh-oh.
Just going down the list of things.
That we didn't cover, or
There's I've been typing away a lot, but let's just have a look at what else. Lots of difference between Plus and Pro type stuff.
right. Well, we explained the difference.
Yeah, in every single case, you can always upgrade from one to the other. So if you have Pro, you really don't need anything else because that's got all the things. If you've got Mocha Plus, you don't no longer need the Mocha AE version, and so it goes down the scale. So, and you can upgrade to each one. You can upgrade from Mocha AE to Mocha Plus or Mocha Pro, and Mocha Plus to Mocha Pro as well. And there's different pricing for each of those sets of information. And if you need to know any more, just contact sales@imagineersystems.com, or just go straight to the website and check out the comparison charts. We've got a nice little link there called Compare, and you can see all the differences between those versions. We also actually ship one called Mocha HitFilm, which actually goes with the HitFilm Ultimate package. So if you're in HitFilm, we definitely recommend you using that because that's its main camera solver for HitFilm.
Right. Well, also, if you ever want to know more about our products, you can go to our flag pages for those products. So we have Mocha Pro here, and you can basically go down all these lovely videos that we made for you that explain what everything does and what's new down here at the bottom. This is what Mocha Pro is, and then this is Mocha Plus, and we explain what Mocha Plus is in these videos, and you can go over everything in that. You can also go to our...
we've fixed finally the forums. The forums were down for a little bit, so
yeah.
We had a little bit of a problem there. But if those who are used to the forums, they are back, and they're actually a lot better. So
and they're prettier.
That's right, yeah. So you can... Mary has a personal hand in actually making the forums look better. So you're able to do all that now, and we'll have that usual response back to you pretty quickly.
Yes. Absolutely, and you can always contact support. If you ever run into any questions that you think are easily answerable or are common problems, you can go to our FAQ page. And of course, you can always go to our videos section where we literally have hundreds of videos for you to peruse, and they are free. Okay, they are 100% free. You can stream them right off our website. You can even stream the fundamentals of Mocha right off our website, which you would otherwise have to buy. So make sure that you take advantage of this amazing resource. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. It's been a wonderful webinar. I'm so sorry we had some hiccups there at the beginning on the sound, but I'm so glad we got that fixed. Hope you enjoyed it. Martin has been our wonderful co-host. He is our product manager. I am Mary Poplin. I am our product specialist. Please go to our website if you have any other questions, and we hope that you have a wonderful day.
And keep in mind too that we will be giving away a free copy of the software. Someone will be emailed after the webinar's finished up. So good luck with that as well.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.
Thanks very much, guys. Bye.